Hi everyone. So this is our second video on charts where we are going to further examine some of the elements or components of the chart and some of the options that we have. So here we have the chart that was generated for us by Excel. We notice that if we select this chart area, we are going to get some new tabs here for the chart tools. So we are going to explore these tabs and see what they contain and what modifications we can make to this automatically generated chart. So first we will go to the Design tab, and here we have the first icon that says Add Chart Element. When I select this here, I have various elements of the chart that I can change. So the first one are the axes, where we have the primary horizontal and primary vertical axes. Both of these are already selected. So if I hover over them, they actually disappear. So that's the horizontal axis disappearing, and now the vertical axis disappears. The axis titles, so we have no axis titles as yet, so it's always a good idea to have your axes labeled. So the primary horizontal axis and the primary vertical axis. Our chart title is above the chart right now, or it can be centered and overlaid, or you can have no title. But again, it's always a good idea to have a title for your chart. Data labels, right now we have no data labels, but they can appear at different places if you so wish. A data table, we have no data table included with this chart, but you can include here so you can see how it changes when we have a data table with legend keys or with no legend keys. We don't really deal much with error bars right now. There's also grid lines. So right now the primary major horizontal grid lines has been selected. So you can also have vertical grid lines, minor horizontal grid lines, and minor vertical grid lines. They're a bit faint, so you may actually have to try it out on your own computer to actually see that. Then we have the legend, or as we might know it, the key, which is showing us the colors for each of the bars. So we have blue being January and a sort of reddish orangish being February. So we can position this legend or key in different places. Instead of individually adding chart elements, you can use the quick layout. So for each type of chart, you will have different layouts available. So you can preview them and select the best one that you would like to use. I usually think this particular layout here, it's layout 9, is actually the best layout because you have all of your labels here. We have the chart title, which you can double click on to change. Chart showing sales. You have the axis title. So this would be the vertical axis title that you can double click on and select to change. And our horizontal axis that you can change as well. In this bar chart or column chart as Excel calls it, this area here is our category axis where we see books, pencils, rulers, and erasers. These are the categories that we have. On the vertical axis here, this is our value axis. So it's showing us the numbers for each of these categories. So notice that for each category, we have two bars. We have one series of blue bars representing values for January. So these are actually called data series. In this chart, we have two data series. If we use this icon that says switch row and column, we can actually change the categories and series. So this is our original chart. When I click on it, notice now we have two categories, January and February, and we have 4 data series. So for each category, we have 4 columns being represented. So you can choose to display the data in your chart in the way that best suits your needs. A couple of other things that you can do here. You can change the data selection. You can also change the chart type. So here we have the various types of charts. Another option that we can use is perhaps the line chart. Now you will notice that for each of these types, like for instance, this is the column charts, we also have various subtypes. Now they may all look very similar, but they're actually quite different and they are used for different specific purposes. So the ones that we will actually use would be the clustered column, or if you like, the 3D clustered column. If you are using a line chart, you will use this basic line chart, or the one with markers, so it's a sort of dot showing you where your data point is, or we will use the pie chart. Now, this data that we have here does not really go into a pie chart because a pie chart shows data that makes up a whole. Here we are really comparing data, so we are going with the column chart. You can also move the chart to a different location. So right now our chart is an object in sheet 1, so we can move the chart to be an object in sheet 2. So notice here we are in sheet 2 now. If we go back to sheet 1, our chart is no longer there. In sheet 2, it's an object that we can move around or we can resize. Additionally, if we go back to design and move charts, we have an option to place our chart in a whole new sheet and give it a name as well. So this is new sheet. I'm calling it sales chart. When I click on OK, notice that a new worksheet has been created. But this chart here actually fills up the entire worksheet area. So it's not like a regular sheet, like sheet 1 or sheet 2. It's a little bit different where the entire chart fills up the area. And the last thing really, you can change the style of your charts here. You can even change the colors. If you go to the Format tab, you will also have a wide variety of options that you can play around with and see what happens with your chart. Now, this particular version of Excel has the options laid out in a way that might be different from your version of Excel. But in these two tabs, Design and Format, you will be able to change all of these elements. The layout of the chart using Quick Layout, individually modifying various chart elements, changing the style of the chart, switching rows and columns, changing the data selection, changing the chart type, and moving the chart to different locations. So that's it for this video. In another video, we will look at some further modifications with the actual data that we are selecting to create a chart.